What up, doe family? I am Fibonacci Brown, and I'm coming to you today because I wanted to talk about the Bill Cosby sentencing and give my perspective on what I see going on with this whole sentencing. I'm just noticing now that it's a little dark. I'm gonna try to turn on some light to see if that helps. There we go. So, anywho, as you all know, Bill Cosby, or may or may not know, Bill Cosby was convicted of rape that took place in 2004, and he was sentenced to 3 to 10 years for this crime. And I definitely feel that if he committed this crime, then yes, he should do the time for this crime. However, I also believe that the punishment should fit the crime. So if someone else has committed the same or a similar crime, then they too should get the same punishment. And looking at some example cases going on in the media, that doesn't appear to be the case. It really seems that if a black man is convicted of rape, that he will not be subjected to the same leniency that a man of another color would be subjected to, particularly a white man. So I saw something in the news about a man around Bill Cosby's age, a white man, who sodomized a 5-year-old. And his punishment for that crime was, I believe, 90 days house arrest. And this was more recent than 15 or 14 years ago. So for a more recent crime of a child, the justice system thought that it was a fair punishment to give that white older man 90 days house arrest. Yet Bill Cosby has received 3 to 10 for the rape of a woman from 14 years ago with questionable evidence. So it just shows me that when it comes to the justice system, that certain things will not be fair. And I also understand that there are some of the Bill Cosby accusers who are making accusations from 30 years ago with nothing more than the accusation as evidence. And, it's really, I know it seems like a slap in the face because some of us black people saw Bill Cosby in handcuffs and we really couldn't figure out why it made us feel so uncomfortable. And I believe that part of why we felt uncomfortable is because, like I said, it was a slap in the face. There are millions of black people walking around who are descendants of slaves in America. And unfortunately, those slaves were also subjected to rape. And some of us are the generational results of that rape. And it just seemed that if a woman could go back 30 years and make an accusation against Bill Cosby that could hold weight, where is the justice for those slaves and their descendants who fathered children who are walking around right now? So we're going to go back. Let's go all the way back. Let's keep it fair. So I think that at least that's what made me uncomfortable. It almost felt like, the nerve for the justice system to seem so harsh and label Bill Cosby as a violent sexual predator when Bill Cosby, for all we know, could be the generational result of a rape of a slave and his family. So if we're going to hold Bill Cosby accountable, let's hold everyone accountable. And if we do that, that sounds a lot like reparations, don't you think? Shouldn't some of these families, these black families who were subjected to rape and as a slave, and as a result, children were born, it would seem that that too should be prosecutable. So to see Bill Cosby go to jail for this crime and then totally ignore, as a black person, that he may even be the generational result of rape, it's just flabbergasting. It really struck a chord with me. I don't know what the sexual or the statute of limitations is on sexual assault, but if you can go back 30 years, you've got millions of people are walking around who are actual proof. I don't believe that any of the women who accused Bill Cosby of sexual assault fathered or birthed any children as a result, but there are plenty of black people who are the result of rape, unfortunately, and there has been no prosecutorial result from those actions. So, what's good for the goose, it should be good for the gander. If you're going to go back that far, go all the way back. Hold everyone accountable. But the punishment should fit the crime. So it seems that the rape of a black woman during slavery that resulted in children just isn't important enough to investigate, prosecute, talk about. Yet an accusation, questionable accusation from a white woman carries a lot of weight, and carries so much weight that you have a man doing 3 to 10 years in jail as a result. So, do I believe Bill Cosby should be in jail for this crime? Yes. I'm not going to show him any favoritism because he is a black man. But I also feel that a crime is a crime is a crime. And if this crime is punishable by this sentence, then that should be the sentence across the board. You shouldn't have white men getting away with the very same crime without the same or similar punishment. So it was a little disheartening in that sense. I also believe that some of what Bill Cosby stated may have been taken out of context. Right now, we have an epidemic in our culture where you have young people who are all too ready to take advantage of drugs, as far as Molly's, Percocets, Xanax. All of these are like pills that have become popularized recently in our culture. And it kind of scares me that you have women from 30 years ago who claim that they were drugged and taken advantage of. And it makes me wonder, in 30 years from now, will that be the case with a lot of women who participate in taking pills that are currently popular? I believe the drug was Spanish fly that Bill Cosby was accused of using on these women, which I understand is an aphrodisiac. I've heard stories from the 60s and 70s about Spanish fly, and from what I understand, yeah, even into the 80s actually, from what I understand, this was something that people would voluntarily take. This was commonplace among adult partiers, and I can't help but think that, considering how long Bill Cosby has been famous, considering how long he's been in the public eye, it's very interesting that these women come to the forefront with these accusations now. And I'm not saying that they waited too long to come forward, but it just seems very strategic on the part of some of these women. And it kind of puts me in the mindset of sexual remorse. And, maybe they were a little too free in their sexual habits and not wanting to appear as a loose woman sexually. Maybe it's a lot easier for them on their acceptance of themselves to play the role of a victim as opposed to sexually loose. So, I don't think it would be a stretch to consider that maybe some of these women are having sexual remorse. Some of them may have done things with Bill Cosby or other celebrities that they don't necessarily feel too proud about. And rather than own it and say, yeah, I slipped myself a Mickey. Yeah, I got down with Bill Cosby. Yeah, I slept with a married man. Rather than admit that, it's a lot easier to say, you know what? I was a victim. And now that date rape drugs and pills have been popularized as a potential experience when it comes to partying or hanging out, maybe now would it be a good time to change the narrative of that behavior where it might not have been so changeable 20 years ago or 10 years ago or when it happened 30 years ago. So it just seems, very strategic. Again, I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm not saying that these women are not victims, but I am also very aware of some women who take advantage of sexual remorse because maybe they feel ashamed about the experience that actually happened, and it's just a lot more palatable if they are viewed as a victim as opposed to loose, a slut, a tramp. Victim is a lot easier to swallow as a label. So I think that is worth the consideration in this instance with Bill Cosby. I also think that some of the commentary and conversation around this Bill Cosby arrest, some of it just doesn't sit well with me. And I think it's partially because people may want to support Bill Cosby for all the wrong reasons. I don't believe that just because he's a black man, he should get a pass. I think if he did it, then yes, he should pay for it in some way. From what I understand, one of these accusers, I'm not sure if it's the same woman who got the conviction on Bill Cosby, but I understand that one of the women was paid off as far as a non-disclosure agreement to the tune of about $300,000 and still spoke out. So it almost seems like somebody smelled a payday, and where it may not have been acceptable to come forward and say, yeah, Bill slipped me some Spanish fly and I'm a victim, where that argument may not have been acceptable 20 or 30 years ago. Right now, the narrative around putting something in somebody's drink is a very touchy subject. It is it's changed from what the culture did at that time to now you can prosecute people for doing this. And it just seems very strategic to me. But there with what's going on right now, if you're gonna convict Bill Cosby for 3 to 10, it should apply across the board, and it shouldn't matter what color that person is or what their financial status is. And it should also have more evidence than he said, she said. It just seemed really staged and crafted when it comes to this whole conviction and the narrative surrounding Bill Cosby. So I pray that Bill Cosby gets through this sentencing, having learned what he needed to learn about this crime, if he's guilty of it. And if he is not guilty and this is something orchestrated, then I pray that Bill Cosby gets justice. And beyond Bill Cosby getting justice, if we're going to go back 15, 30 years to entertain rape accusations, be mindful of the proof of rape that you walk by every day when it comes to black people you engage. Many black people may be the result of generational rape, where master went into great 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 grandma's slave quarters and did the unspeakable, and she bare children, and those children bear children, and those children's children bear children. That's a generational rape. So if you're going to go back, go all the way back. You might find at the end of the day that this Bill Cosby accuser who's sentenced to jail may owe him money by way of reparations because Bill Cosby's a black man. So let's make it fair and let's make it make sense. That's my opinion, my perspective. I am Fibonacci Brown, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.